Hi everyone, my name is User1 and I've been roleplaying for over a decade now. Today I'd like to address the issue I see happen not only in roleplay servers, but across all gaming communities. Wherever there's too much freedom, there are rules. In CSGO competitive, it's possible to kill your teammates, but it's against the game rules, and if you get reported and overwatched, you may even receive a 30-day ban from competitive for griefing. Similarly, every roleplay server has their own set of rules, which may be very descriptive or contain a grey area. Typically, rules on a roleplay server are do not kill without a good reason, do not use out of character information to gather advantage in character, also known as metagaming, and after respawning, make sure that you avoid anything that led up to your character's death. We all have experienced rule breaking happen against us. And it's especially frustrating in roleplay servers, where stakes are higher than ever, with being able to lose assets it took you tens or even hundreds of hours to acquire, let alone having to void your story, and in the worst cases, even being forced to character kill. So how do we battle rule breaking? After all, we're all here for the same purpose, to develop a character story, to get a good experience, and generally to have fun. Well, today I want to bring forward a couple of examples of how rule-breaking situations were handled. All these 4 examples will vary in severity of rule-breaking, so you can see what happens when you report someone for something very serious, like hacking, and something as mild as making inappropriate /do. Let's go! But before we get started, to make a report you need evidence. There are 3 types of evidence: chat logs, screenshots, and video. Chat logs are almost completely useless on their own, and by themselves won't serve any kind of evidence since they're usually easy to fake. Although in MTA, where they're not as easy to fake, they can be used sometimes. Screenshot is the most popular choice for people without a video recording software. It usually gets the job done, but sometimes may be insufficient. Just press F8 to take a screenshot in SAMP and locate the screenshot folder in your documents, GTA San Andreas user files, SAMP, and screens. Using programs like Shadowplay for NVIDIA or MSI Afterburner for AMD, you have the options to easily record in-game footage. And if you set it up correctly, you can even have the program constantly recording over the last couple of minutes of footage to be saved at any time with a hotkey. That way, you will never miss crucial details. Of course, there are cases where footage may become corrupted, but doing your best to collect as much evidence as possible is the best thing to do. Not only for out-of-character reports, but for things that would have been caught on in-character cameras to be able to be roleplayed too. I cannot overstate the importance of constantly recording everything that happens. When I started YouTube, people would constantly PM me in-game asking me if I was recording. At first, I'd always answer yes, because it was true. I do always record. But 99% of what I record doesn't make it into an episode because it's either boring or irrelevant. Constantly recording has saved me numerous times, notably when I almost lost my gun license on Michelle Jefferson. I was actually filming for my LSRP in first person video when this incident occurred. I was chilling at the mall, hoping to just get some casual footage when all of a sudden someone started breaking into my bike off a police scene. As usual, police did nothing to stop the incident. Perhaps because they had more important matters, or because they just didn't care. Michelle ran up to her bike and shoved the guy off of it. Now some of you might mistakenly call this ninja jacking, but actually it's been a known fact that as long as you roleplay interacting with the driver, even after you jack them, and as long as you give them a chance to respond to your roleplay, it's perfectly acceptable to jack a person out of a vehicle in this way. This is reinforced by the fact that the admin reviewing the footage had no issue with me doing so. Of course, it would have been great if something like that would be in the rules, but LSRP admins like to keep their rules vague and grey so that any new admin can ban anyone for any reason and they're left to their own whim to report that admin and wait days if not weeks for the case to be resolved. After Michelle pulled the man off her bike, he proceeded to scold the bat and swing at her without any use of /me. In LSRP standard, you're supposed to type /me rushes Michelle because this is a hardcore roleplay server with heavy developed characters and not a cops and robbers server with extra steps. Now, we all come from different backgrounds and we all have different standards for using deadly force. And most of us never experienced what it's like to be hit with a baseball bat. So I can see that some of you will be in disagreement with my following actions: to draw a firearm and fire at the person swinging a bat at me. But I do not care. Deadly force versus deadly force. I'm not complaining that the police, who did nothing to stop the robbery a couple seconds prior, decided to shoot a woman who was clearly defending herself from a bat-wielding maniac. And you know why? Because this is America. And those actions are pretty realistic. Nevertheless, I reported a thief who failed to type the arbitrary/me, and this is the important part. Do not whine in OOC. I can understand the frustration of losing because someone else broke the rules. Trust me, you're listening to someone who's lost hundreds of hours of progress because of said issues. But complaining out of character is going to achieve the exact opposite of what you're trying to achieve. There is no purpose complaining to the rule breaker, because the rule breaker either is misinformed about the rules, which by the way doesn't excuse the rule breaking in my opinion, or is deliberately exploiting the system that is in place and just seeing how far they can get away with. It's actually extremely rare that anything gets resolved by complaining to the rule breaker themselves. So don't, because it looks unprofessional, and when you complain when you're in a losing position, it paints a bad image of you, an image of a person who cannot take a loss. Instead, save as much evidence as you have and start compiling a report. All half-decent roleplay servers give you an option to report other players for rule breaking. It's what they rely on to maintain the standard of roleplay. People may judge you for snitching, but I judge those people for acting like thugs when in reality they're playing a roleplay server. Seriously, you don't have any grounds to act thug out of character when you're a role player. So hop on the forums of your roleplay server. If you don't know what they are, just type in the name of the server followed by forum into Google and click on the first result. You should be able to find a section called something like player reports, player complaints, ban requests, not to be confused with ban appeals, etc. Once you found it, there will almost always be a format which you must use to make your report. Sometimes, if the player you're reporting is a staff member, there will be a whole different format and you'll have to submit it to a whole different section. Here's the tip: if you can, it's good to check previously submitted player reports to see how they were formatted and how admins responded to. Make sure you keep neutral in your report. Do not use vulgar language. Take your time and make sure your report is as clear as possible. Keep in mind that the admin who's going to be reading your report will hopefully be completely oblivious to the situation before going in the report. I say hopefully because the best kind of judge in a case is a judge who isn't siding with either party. If you use personalized insults towards someone's character, that paints you as a bad person. And you don't want to appear as a bad person. Trust me, I learned that the hard way.
Yeah.
After you've made your report, all that's left is patience. Sometimes, the other party will get a chance to respond to the report. If they don't bring forward any evidence, you can point that out, and in most cases, you're not required to respond to their argument, and you can simply say that you're going to wait for admin's decision. If you can resolve the problem without admin involvement, then that's even better. As you can see in Michelle's case, it was fairly straightforward. The person didn't respond, and the admin approved license reinstatement. Although I'm a little confused with the comment about not being able to pull out the weapon while being punched, still the response was very quick. Here's another case where filming was very useful. I was playing on LSRP on my Gloria character. I spawned one of my vehicles when all of a sudden there was a person sitting inside of it. Since this situation is very clearly not in character, I went ahead and messaged that person out of character. He then got out of the car and it appeared to have teleported away. When I asked him what happened, he acted dumb, asked me to stop PMing him, and then suggested that I might even have the wrong ID. So what I did was I saved the footage, I uploaded it, and that was that. The person was banned for hacking. If he had destroyed any of my property, I would have been reimbursed by the admins. It's also important to inform the person of their report to perhaps get the process moving faster. However, let's move on to something far more subtle. In fact, so subtle, I still don't know why I went through the report. Maybe I was just salty. Maybe I wanted to uphold the standard of this cops and raw, of this hardcore roleplay server. Either way, this is actually part of a failed episode, which I would have uploaded had my microphone not failed me that day. Gloria was doing her job of freelance guarding when someone misused a do to blatantly insult me. Now, normally, I don't really care for insults because I get them all the time. People telling me to kill myself, adjusting my appearance. In a way, I'm actually grateful for those insults because they point out areas in which I can develop in. But when people bring it in character and act like that's casual, that's when it bothers me. Because over the years I've learned to filter out of character nonsense and keeping everything as in character as possible. But when this nonsense happens, I guess it tickled me in the wrong way and I made a report. I don't regret making the report. He did commit a rule breaking, and I think I'll start reporting every single kind of rule breaking to uphold the standards of roleplay on my favorite roleplay server. I mean, recently I saw a man running around the mall screaming a literal advert, and I got Vietnam type flashbacks to my days on Russian half-baked donator-centered roleplay servers which had that kind of stuff all over the place, and I cringed. And you know, when user one cringes, it's really bad. And we cannot let that happen. We cannot let low standards of roleplay that, admittedly, I am in part unintentionally responsible for to plague the most balanced and entertaining roleplay server out there. It's my right, no, my duty to report even the mildest amount of rule breaking, just like it is your duty to report people like me whenever I mess up. In the end, he received a warning. So presumably, if he does it again and gets reported, he'll get a 5-minute admin jail or something like that. Moving on, this is the most complicated example I'll bring forward. A traffic collision escalated into a full-blown gunfight. Gloria was driving home when a stranger hit her in a head-on collision. Gloria, being ex-law enforcement, decided to chase the individual down, filming them along the way. Now this escalated into a road rage incident in which a gun was pulled on Gloria, a gunfight ensued. Gloria surprisingly wins initially, only to be shot dead after their accomplice leaves to get coked up and returns with a shotty. Again, note how I didn't make a single complaint in /B or /PM, in fact, quite the opposite. The other party showed themselves to be very mature and sensitive. You don't want to appear that way in out-of-character reports, because this paints a bad perception of you in the eyes of the admin. Another thing to note, say only facts that you are sure of. Because when you're accusing someone of something and it later turns out that what you were saying is not true, then you really begin to look bad. Overlooking the evidence, I spotted something interesting. How when the accomplice left the scene, he had less than 100 hit points, indicated by an unfull health bar. But when he returned only a couple minutes later, it was full. This indicates that he recovered his health immediately after a gunfight, which is, despite not being in the rules section, a very big no-no. God, wouldn't it be so convenient if things like that were put in a rules section? You know, so we'd know what's right and what's not right without having to get punished for it first. I should write my own rules section just so that people have a standard to follow. That's not a terrible idea. Anyway, at the end of it all, he did do one thing right. He realized I had all the cards and he offered me a refund. Now the gun that I lost was a licensed gun, which cost basically nothing in LSRP, so I told him that I didn't need a refund. This is the best way to avoid admin punishment. Just admit your fault and offer a refund. That being said, it's usually very difficult to see yourself as at fault, because in most cases, if you're not exploiting the system, you're probably just misinformed about the rules, which I do not blame you for. Well, there you go. Hopefully now you're more capable at making player reports and keeping your roleplay server clean. Do not let anybody judge you for what you love doing, and stay awesome.